Steve, we're coming off a 35-6 loss to Texas in a game that never really felt close. You were there, though. You had a front row seat. Walk me through what happened this weekend.
It was a fun day in Austin, to be honest. It was a fun week. It was rainy most of the week. Luckily, the game cleared up. The weather ended up being pretty good. It was sweltering, though. The heat and the humidity there in Austin was no joke. So it was a hot game. It was funny. Every time the sun would go behind the cloud, everybody would cheer because it was so awesome. Hot. But it was a great environment. We get to the game. You see Sark running out in front of his team. We're sitting right by the BYU tunnel, so we get to watch BYU run out with all their flags. We see Kalani, we see the guys. So it was fun to be there. Like you said, we were sitting right there in the end zone, really close to the field, so it was fun. Bevo came out. You know how I feel about Bevo. Live mascots, gotta love them. The fans love Bevo. I think it would have fit in well there in Texas. They got the Texas fight, and they're all giving them the hook'em and a lot of cool traditions, right? Yeah. Texas is a very storied program. Obviously, this year a top 10 program. Every single year, they're one of the top recruiting teams in the nation as well. They have talent and they got 5 stars all over the place. And so it was a really cool environment. Cool to be there. 100,000 people. BYU fans showed out like we expected. There's a huge section on the one end zone that was almost exclusively BYU fans, a band around the entire top of the stadium that was royal blue.
That's really cool.
And then just scattered throughout the stadium. And I heard a lot of people talking. I saw it on X as well. Talked to a lot of Texas fans that were really impressed by the way that BYU traveled. Dropping off my rental car at the airport, even the guy at the rental place said, "Man, you guys had a lot of fans here this weekend." So shout out to BYU fans. It was a fun time. Unfortunately, the game did not go the way we wanted, but it was a good weekend.
So the game felt like it followed the narrative of a lot of BYU wins this year, where we kind of just hang around and we might not be winning the whole time. So I'm going to give you just blind stats of Team 1 and Team 2. And you're going to be, hopefully, this is going to surprise you a little bit of like, wow, I didn't realize we kept it this close. Team 1, 292 yards of offense. Team 2, 354. Team 1, 2 for 13 on third downs. This one might have been BYU. Texas was 6 for 11. Team 1 and Team 2 both had 17 first downs. Time of possession, Team 1, 33. Team 2, 27. Turnovers, Team 1, 3. Team 2, 2. So it didn't look like, if you look at the blind stats, it didn't look like this was going to be a blowout, which in turn turned into a blowout because we couldn't move the ball. But it followed the arc of a lot of games this year that BYU won. Didn't it? Did it feel like that when you were like in the stadium, or was I just watching it with a little too much?
I think one of the benefits I had, and I think a lot of BYU fans had, is we didn't expect to go to DKR and beat a top 10 team. And so expectations, I think, were level. We did hope last week. We both predicted that BYU would cover. Obviously, they did not cover. The game kind of got away from them there at the end of the fourth quarter. But the game as a whole never really felt like we were all the way out of it until the very end, right? Mm-hmm. We go into the fourth quarter, it's a 2-possession game, right? It's 21-6. We haven't looked great. The offense hasn't been awesome. But to be honest, the defense have been playing ball, right? Mm-hmm. The defense has done a good job. Obviously, we gave up that punt return. That's not on the defense. The defense had been given a short field a couple times because of turnovers by the offense. But 21-6 in the fourth quarter, a 2-possession game, I think a lot of BYU fans would have taken that. Like I said, unfortunately, they pulled away there at the end. But, I mean, this was a game that BYU had opportunities. BYU's defense got turnovers they needed, right? One of the first drives of the game, they get an interception, and I believe it's Crew Wakely running down the sideline, cuts back, falls on the 10-yard line, right? And it's Texas at that point, it's Texas 7, BYU 0, and it's like, wow, we're going to go tie this up. We have first and goal from the 10-yard line. And then we see the flag come out. Unfortunately, Max Tooley had blindside blocked one of their linemen, I believe it was, behind the play. So Wakely's already returning the ball. He's behind the play and lights him up. And I know it's hard, right? You don't get a lot of opportunities to hit a guy that hard and when he's not looking. But, man, that was a 45-yard penalty for BYU. And I think that was a big swing there early on in the game. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. BYU has to have a hot start. And it seemed like that was their moment. They were going to have a hot start. They're going to tie it up at number 7, Texas on the road. And that one mistake by one of our veteran players brings us back 45 yards. We don't end up getting points on the
It was a really uncharacteristic play. I didn't expect when I saw the flag, let alone a blindside block for 45 yards to bring it back. But Max Tooley, who feels like he doesn't really make mistakes on the football field that often, especially an unforced mistake like that. It wasn't him like missing coverage or like slipping on a play. he went out of his way to hit somebody, which is like, man, like that kind of hurts.
And the blindside block is a newer rule, right? It's one of these player safety rules that have been big the last couple of years in college football and at the NFL level. And you grow up playing football, right? And a lot of the times the reason you want to play defense is because you like hitting people, right? And I'm sure his eyes light up and he sees a guy and he's ready to hit him. But yeah, those are the plays where you just have to lay off. You can't hurt your team in that moment. And I'm sure if Max could go back, he'd do it a little bit differently. But again, the hardest part about it for me is it was behind the play, and that's a lineman, right? That lineman's not going to run down Crew Akeley on the sideline. And so just let the guy go, get the ball to the 10-yard line, and give your offense a chance to tie up the game and see where we go from there.
Is it too early to talk quarterback?
It's not too early. It's time in my mind.
I think it's time.
It's time.
Me and you specifically have kind of brushed over the Slovis experience so far, for better or for worse. I personally like him off the field. Everything I've seen is really charismatic. It's a type of person that you want to support. How much longer can BYU let him be the starter for this team?
Well, and you bring up a great point. He seems like a great dude. I saw him after the game. We're standing there right as the players goes by. He's signing every single football the kids are throwing at him. I was really impressed by just the type of person he was off the field. And you got to give him some credit, right? He's not a member of the church. He comes to BYU from USC and Pitt. I'm sure BYU is a very different experience for him. And so you got to give him some credit for being willing to come to BYU and appreciate that. One more thing I'm gonna peg him on that I thought was really impressive. It was a third and I think it wasn't third and goal, but we were within the red zone. And I think it was third and long. And he ran down the sideline, scrambled a little bit, which he doesn't do often. And he ends up diving and they take out his legs. Remember this? And he does a front flip, right? And that's not something that we'd seen from Keaton this year. Obviously, he doesn't like to run the ball a lot, but that's the type of play that we need out of our quarterback, right? For the team to believe, especially with how the offense has been kind of wailing this year, plays like that can really excite an offense. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be much. We ended up kicking a field goal there, but I was impressed by that singular play. Now, as we talk about the quarterback as a whole, I think it's time to see Jake Retzlaff off the bench. He was the number one college at the JUCO ranks, number one quarterback in college JUCO ranks.
I didn't know that.
And
that's
so
cool.
He was a big time get for this BYU staff. Obviously, Keaton comes in as well, and he's taken precedent. But one of the things about Retzlaff that maybe Keaton is lacking is Keaton is a pocket quarterback, right? He's a pocket passer. He does not look to scramble. He does not like to get down the field with his legs. Jake is that type of player that he's more of a dual threat guy, that he can sling the ball, obviously. I watched his highlights last night. He's got a great arm. He can make all the throws, and he also is mobile, right? He can bust it for a 50-yard gain. And defenses don't have to respect that when Keaton is on the field. And so do I think that Retzlaff could solve the offensive problems? I don't. I think it's similar to Utah's offensive struggles this year. A lot of the Utah fans said, man, if we could just get Cam Rising back, we're on track. But you watch the games and you really dig into the film and you look at the offensive line play, you look at the running backs, you look at the receivers, the pass catchers, and you say it's more than a quarterback problem. And that's absolutely true of BYU at this point.
It does feel like it's more than a quarterback problem, but at the same time, how do I say this? So there's times in the NFL especially, I feel like, where you'll have a better quarterback comes in, and all of a sudden everyone around them becomes better. Smart. It's almost like the Tom Brady effect, where it's like Tampa Bay was fine when I think it was Jameis Winston was the quarterback before Tom got there. Then Tom got there, and then all of a sudden the offensive line became elite, and the running backs really started to find holes to run in, and the receivers really started to come down with balls. And obviously Mike Evans was good before that. But it really makes you wonder, like, does a quarterback change spark the offense? Because it almost looks like the entire unit is just unmotivated right now. And it's worth a shot. Like I'm saying, you have to give Jake a shot. I think that's a great point. A lot of offenses you see, you switch out the quarterback and they light a fire on the players, right? Something's new, something's different. Mm-hmm. You can, bring in new packages, new types of plays. We can maybe see a little bit more quarterback run that might open up, other parts of the field. I want to go back to one specific play from Slovis that really disappointed me, right? As a fifth-year player, someone that started all over the country, that has this type of experience, and it really, really hurt. So it was, I believe it was still 7-0 at the time. We had two receivers on the right. I think one of them was Kibo, and then Chase was the other one. Chase was on the outside. And you can see the safety blitz, right? You'll see a lot of times in game, Keaton gives like the fake clap. Yeah. Right? That's the cadence, is the clap, and they snap it. He gives the fake clap, and you can see like where the blitz is coming from, which is really smart by him, right? And so you see the fake clap, and you see the nickel, who's on the slot receiver, cheat inside, and you see the safety, it looks like it's going to be too high, cheat over the top. So we're going to, obviously, the blitz is coming from the nickel. So he does the fake clap, the nickel bites, and at that point, the nickel, he's like, okay, Keaton knows I'm coming. So he commits all the way. He's standing next to the defensive end, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody can see that he's going to come unblocked. Yeah.
The running back's on the backside. So So Keaton snaps the ball, and it's a quick slant to Chase. It's kind of a crossing pattern between Chase and I think it was Debo, and Chase is wide open, right? The because of the blitz, they're backing off a little bit.
Yep.
And this nickel is coming right at Keaton. Keaton turns to throw and jumps in the air. And this guy's got like a 40-inch vertical. He's probably some 5-star recruit, some stud. And Keaton throws it right into his hands, right? Tips it up in the air, interception. They return another 60 yards and get the ball in the red zone. And so those are the type of plays that, with Keaton's experience, right? You got to give him a pump fake. You got to give him like one of those, the sidearm throws that we're seeing from Pat Mahomes and others.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so this is the type of play where you expect a guy with Keaton's experience to be able to adjust in real time, right? You knew he was coming. You knew you had that hot route, but you got to give him a pump. You got to give him something different. You can't throw it right in his hands.
It's so hard to watch those in real time because 5 years is a long time to be playing college football, man. And it's like, did the fake clap? He saw him coming. Like it's not that he didn't see him coming. Like that's one thing.
Right.
If he doesn't see him and he gets unblocked all the way and just gets taken out, but like he changed the route. He knew where he was going with the ball. And he hit the guy in the chest, it looked like almost. Like it's hard to justify that. For those listening that didn't watch the game, Keaton Slovis was 25 for 40, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, 197 yards. For those who believe in the QBR stat, he was a 27.9 over the weekend against Texas, which is, it's hard to look at that. It's hard to look at 6 points, no touchdowns for an offense, and justify him starting this week against West Virginia, or at least not give the backup a chance. Let's talk running game, unless you had something else.
Let me finish. You mentioned the stats. I want to bring in some advanced stats as well. I saw some really interesting stuff on X this last weekend from a guy called Parker Fleming at Stats Awar. He has a lot of advanced analytics for both the NFL and college football. And I saw some really interesting things, some things that were quite discouraging, and then we can transition into the run game from here. But Keaton Slovis is the lowest ranked quarterback in the Big 12 conference. And I shouldn't say lowest ranked quarterback. This is BYU's passing game as a whole is the lowest ranked in the Big 12. And so this may surprise you to hear, but so the stat is, it's a really overall total stat for BYU's passing game. It's called estimated points added. And so it's similar to like golf, if you've heard of like estimated strokes added or strokes saved, things like that. Mm-hmm. On the year, when BYU's throwing the ball, estimated, we've lost 42.4 points. So we're in the red, we're in the negative. And per attempt, so every time Keaton drops back, on average, we're losing 0.173 points.
Wow.
And so, when you think about this, you're like, okay, just stop passing the ball, right? Well, then you look at BYU's running game, and we're losing 0.22 points in the running game. And so it might be easy to say, run the ball more because the pass isn't working, but the run hasn't been working well either. Just to give you a little bit more context, Dylan Gabriel, the Oklahoma quarterback, he's the highest ranked in the Big 12. He's at 95 points added. So our passing game is dropping us 42 points. Oklahoma's passing game is elevating them.
Is this estimated over the season? 42
this is over
points
the season.
Over the season?
Correct. Okay. That's over the season. And so Keaton's last in the Big 12, Keaton in the BYU passing game last in the Big 12, and the third worst team in the nation when it comes to adding points through the passing game.
That's terrifying to hear. I didn't love that you brought that up, I'll be honest. That kind of gave me some doubts going into this weekend. That's an interesting stat that when you said our running game is also losing us points.
The rushing game, so passing game negative 0.17, rushing game negative 0.22.
How much of this falls on Roderick?
I mean, you look at stats like this and you have to say, okay, where's the coaching here?
Yeah.
Right. And look, I'm at the game. I'm in the end zone. I'm watching. It's a unique perspective, right? When you watch on TV, and usually when you get good tickets, you sit on the sideline and you see the verticality of the field. Well, we were in the end zone, and so we see the field east to west. And so it was a different perspective. But man, were there some plays with open receivers, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you see, like, when the passing game's not working in a game, you get online and you see everyone in like, oh, the receivers aren't breaking open, right? Or they're slipping on their routes, or the DBs are just too good to get the receivers open. I'll tell you, there were open BYU receivers on Saturday, and they just were not being hit. And a lot of the times it seemed like Keaton just holding onto the ball for a step too long. Mm-hmm. And by the time he releases it, the DB's able to break on the ball. We saw almost at the end of the game, there could have been a pick six in the situation.
It's so hard if you're watching the game on TV to see stuff like that, because they really just focus on the quarterback. And once he throws it, they zoom out. So it's people on TV might be like, oh, well, the guys probably aren't open, but it's cool to hear your perspective where you're there and you're like, nope, they were open. They just weren't in the field view. But yeah, Slovis needs to be making those throws. Aiden Robbins went for almost 60 yards, 58, 17 carries. He really had a workload this last weekend. I liked what I saw from him. He looks strong.
He's strong. He's big. We talked about it last week. Very big body. He was one of the I don't want to say few, but he was one of the BYU players that looks like he could match up with Texas, right? Early on in the game, I saw their tight end come out against Crew Wakely, right? And there's just this disparity in size. And you can see, the 5-star versus the recruits that BYU's gotten historically. But Aiden Robbins looks the part. He's big, he's strong. I like the way he runs. He chooses his gap and he hits it. Oftentimes, you'll see him give a little bit of a sidestep to set up a block. And so I was impressed by his running ability. I'm pinning this one more on the offensive line that would have a better rushing attack. Interestingly, though, LJ Martin out of the game for what we're hearing is an injury.
It's a really, really late scratch.
I saw him after the game, and there's a guy next to me. And he goes, "LJ, are you okay? You okay?" And he looks at us and smiles and gives us a thumbs up. And so I'm not sure if we can read into that.
Sounds cryptic.
I believe Kalani said like they might use LJ in an emergency situation. Not sure what an emergency would have been. He was dressed, okay. Fully padded up. He warmed up. He was out there. Looked fine to me. But in the game, BYU has the second and third strings running back Smith and. I'm blanking on the other guy, but they both had Davis. Thank you, Miles Davis. They both had breakout runs. I believe one of them had one run for 13 yards and another one for 20, something like that. And so you look at stuff like that, it's similar to the quarterback, right? Aiden Robbins seemed to be okay. But then these other guys come in these break off these runs, and so you think, give these other guys a shot, give them the ball a little bit more, and I'd love to see the ball spread out a little bit more. But you talk about the offense. Maybe you've heard this stat. In 51 years since 1972, BYU has never gone 8 games into the season without a 400-yard game. This is the first time in over 50 years that BYU has done this. We have not had a game of 400 yards this season, which is highly concerning.
That's really concerning. How many did we have this last weekend? Were we even close?
I think it was like you said, the disparity wasn't terrible. We did have some junk yards there at the end of the game when, Texas is.
No, we were not close. 292.
Oh, it's close to 400. I thought you meant close to the opponent. Yeah. 292 yards.
292, and that's with the chunk plays at the end that were given to us. The defense, Steve, surprisingly held up really, really well. Really happy with what I saw from the defense.
I was thrilled about the defense. We saw Jay Hill wearing his black polo again, which I was thrilled to see. And the defense really held up. Obviously, you look at the scoreboard and you see 35 points and you say, okay, the defense struggled. But in reality, if you're watching the game, like we talked about, 10 minutes left in the game, BYU's only given up 21 points. 7 of those are on a punt return, not on the defense. And BYU had been given short fields the entire day because of turnovers by the BYU offense, because of really poor punting. That was odd this week that Rico did not have a great day punting or covering, the punt return team covering. And so the defense kept having these short fields. And I was impressed by their play. We had a lot of guys that made individual plays, individual efforts. I'm thinking of the 2 fourth down stops on the goal line, right? That's not something that I'm accustomed to seeing.
It's happened a few times this year where I'm really getting excited about it.
And this is a high quality offense, right? Yeah. Sark is one of the best offensive minds in college football, and they're getting down there into the red zone. They're getting down there to the goal line. And twice the BYU defense came up really, really big and made those stops. And so, man, the defense, they've got to be a little bit frustrated as well. I think they put it all out there. They gave BYU a chance to win this game. It was 21 points in the fourth quarter, and the offense just couldn't respond.
It's so hard as a football player and as a defense, and I touch on this every week, it feels like, to go out there and consistently, I guess BYU won the time of possession, so they weren't out there the entire game, but just to know that like you're going out there on a short field, and if you get a stop, your offense might get a first down. Like that's deflating, man. Like you don't want to run out there and be like, yep, put everything into this drive, and my quarterback couldn't get 4 yards. Like that hurts.
And it's 7-0 in the game. Texas is driving at us in the end zone, and it's been a long drive, right? And when you start to get to 4, 5, 6 plays, you start to see the defense subbing, right? And to Sark's credit, he sees this. He sees our 2 safeties go out, and we're already on our backup safeties, right? He sees our 2 safeties go out. We have our 2 third-string safeties come back in, one of them being Raider Demooney. They run a double move, throw it over the top, and have a touchdown, right? And so things like that are tough for a couple reasons. Number one, you'd love to see your starters in there on the most important plays, but also, like you're talking about, when your defense is on the field constantly, guys are getting gassed, right? And the coaches have to make a calculation, right? Do we put in our backup guy that's fresh and ready to go, or do we keep our starters on the field? They made that call.
What's so hard about the quote-unquote fresh, ready to go, in real time, and depending on where you are in the game, these guys haven't moved their body in an hour and a half. Like they're not tired, but they're sure not warm either. Like I remember vividly a play where it like just looked like our guy was stuck in mud right when he subbed in, and it's not tired, obviously. It's just he's really, really like cold. Like, and it wasn't cold at the game, but like as an athlete to go in there and guard a 5-star or defend a 5-star receiver, you really got to have your joints ready to go. And that's not the case all the time.
Yeah, it is an interesting, it's different than a lot of sports, right? Where you can go in for a play and come out for a play, and you can be sitting for an hour and then be asked to go in for a whole drive. And, and so it's,
or even the most, like a 3rd and 21, they're like, go guard Devontae Adams. You're like, oh, let me wake up real fast. Like, that's hard.
Let me tell you about one really other interesting part of the game. I don't know if this played on TV or not. I don't know when they came out of the timeout, but it was quite funny. They were coming out of a timeout and they had the Oklahoma game on their massive board, and their video board is as big, as wide as the field. I think a football field's 52.5 yards, and their video board's massive, absolutely huge.
Wow.
So it's a cool stadium, like we talked about, a lot of people there. And the PA announcer gets on the mic and he goes, in another Big 12 game today, and they put up the game and it's Oklahoma losing, right? And the fans are going nuts. And in the pregame where, they have TVs outside the stadium, everybody's watching Oklahoma cheering every time something goes wrong. And so they come back from commercial and the play clock starts to run down, right? The ref winds the playing clock. It goes 25, 24, 23. And then the ref blows the whistle and stops the game, stops the play clock, does this thing to reset the play clock. And literally everyone in the stadium is just watching the Oklahoma game. It's the last play of the game when Oklahoma has the ball and they're throwing it to the end zone to try to beat Kansas.
Right.
And they literally held up the game to watch Oklahoma lose. And one of the loudest parts of the game was when Oklahoma lost that game. And I thought it was awesome. And everybody's cheering. And anyway, it was a cool contrast. I was at the USC game last week, and everybody, part of their fight song at USC is they cheer, UCLA sucks, right? I was at Texas, and part of their fight song is "Oh, you sucks," and they're all cheering when their rival loses. And anyway, we saw game day at Utah this week, and we saw some banter between BYU fans and Utah fans, and they're living rent free in our head, and you're living rent free in my head. And anyway, I just love it. I think we should just eat it up as college football fans.
It's so fun.
Let's just talk trash with our rivals. Let's be, we don't have to be rude about it, but man, I think it's part of what makes the sport great. And it was a good experience.
It is, and I can't wait. And I know we'll touch on this all off season, but I cannot wait to play Utah again.
It's being in the same conference. Fun. It is. It's going to mean a lot more. Both fan bases are going to be riled up. We were scheduled to play an out of conference game in Salt Lake City next year. I think it'd be awesome if somehow we get that flipped, and because it's a Big 12 game, they play in Provo. I think that would be amazing. But we'll see when the schedule comes out. But man, it'll be fun to play.
Something I want to touch on really fast. If you haven't heard our Jazz podcast yet, we've been doing something called Paul's Play of the Game. I saw something on Saturday that I was like, I can't not talk about this. And here's the thing. I love Jacob Robinson. I think he's one of our best players, if not one of our best defensive players.
National DB of the week last week.
He's been incredible all season. The stats show it. The film shows it. There's one play in specific, Steve, that I didn't love from him. And I'm not sure what the coverage was supposed to be here. It sure looks like they're in a man. But this is right off of a turnover, I believe. It was the first play of their drive, and they're on our 13. Do you remember this? It was when they went up 21-28. Okay. You remember what happened here?
I don't remember exactly, but let's see.
Either way. So I'm going to screen record it and kind of scrub through it with you. In fact, if you want to watch it with me, you're more than welcome to. So this is what happens. So you have it right here where Jacob Robinson is 10 yards off exactly. And here's the thing with this is it's 1st and goal. And I don't love this setup already. Like it's hard to they could run a little bubble screen right here. They could do a lot, but let's see what happens. I'm going to play the whole playthrough and then we're going to break it down a little bit. So he hikes it, slant. There's a 2-yard slant right up the middle, nearly untouched into the end zone. So this is what kind of hurts me, and I feel like it was indicative of the defense playing hard all game and then just kind of not giving up at the end, but almost being too gassed and not wanting to go hit bodies. So the second they hike it, and again, I played defensive back in 2nd grade, so I might know better, but the second they hike it, Jacob's backpedaling straight into the end zone, and right here he's out of frame when the guy breaks in. There's still 10 yards of separation there, or even 8. And it's just the easiest throw in the world. And I don't know, and maybe you could tell me the last time BYU was able to play press man coverage in the goal line successfully. But I feel like this has been a glaring problem all year, and it really showed this weekend.
It's been a long time. BYU doesn't seem to get the DB recruits, the high-level DB recruits that some teams get. Like you said, Jacob Robinson has been a good player for BYU this week, National DB of the Week. He's had multiple interceptions. I think he's top in the nation, not the top, but one of the top players in the nation at getting interceptions. But it's tough, and I don't know if there's a missed call there, a missed assignment, or if that's the defense that Jay Hill called. I would be surprised, right? When he's 10, they're on the, what did you say, the 15-yard line, 13-yard line?
13,
and he's 10 yards off the ball and bailing on the snap, right?
Yeah.
Where are you bailing to? He's bailing into the end zone, right? And giving his guy a bigger cushion. You said he ran the slant.
It wasn't even first and goal either. It was first and 10. Like it's hard to justify it.
And when you get down in the red zone, you have to be able to tighten your coverages. And you can tighten your coverage because you have the sideline and the back of the end zone as an extra defender, right? And so when you're playing that far off the ball, and credit to Sark, I don't know if it's a hot route, I don't know if they're calling an audible, but if I'm a quarterback and I look over and I see a guy 10 yards off the ball and nobody's standing in the middle of the field, I'm throwing it to him for a touchdown.
Yeah, it looked like they were in man on that side of the field at least. So it's very easy for him to look over and be like, sure looks open to me. Like, let's run this thing. Is there anything else from the game that you wanted to touch on? I know you were there, so you might have a lot of notes.
I do have a lot of notes. Took a lot of notes of the game. A couple other things I wanted to point out. Isaac Rex, not sure what's happened, where he's gone. There's a couple times where Keaton's thrown him the ball. One time it was like a big third down. It seemed, I think it was in the fourth quarter. He's on this crossing pattern, and I thought we'd see a lot of crossing patterns out of BYU this week. Houston, when they almost beat Texas last week, ran crossing patterns all day and just tore up the Texas defense. I didn't see it a lot from A-Rod and the BYU offense. He threw it at Isaac Rex's feet. He only had 2 catches in this game, and both of them were kind of in garbage time. One of them was to end the half when Texas is just bailing off and playing prevent, making sure BYU doesn't get points before the half, and I think he had like a 19-yard catch. The other one was, I believe, on the last drive of the game. And so Isaac Rex, freshman All-American, 12 touchdowns in his first year at BYU. This year so far, he's had 1 touchdown. Another stat I'll point out, when it comes to targets, Isaac Rex has historically been, the last 3 years, has been one of the highest targeted players at BYU. He plays the tight end position. A lot of the tight end throws are over the middle. They're shorter routes. You expect to see a high percentage of catches out of those targets, right? This year, Isaac Rex is only catching 50% of the balls that are thrown at him. His freshman year, he was above 75%.
Wow.
And so that indicates to me a couple things. Number one, maybe he's not getting as open as he used to. It could be the accuracy of the quarterback isn't putting it where he needs it. But also, it seems like Isaac Rex isn't getting these easy catches, right? We talked about last week, we'd love to see some creativity where, Isaac Rex is chipping the D end and then leaking out for a 2-yard catch, right? And with as big as he is, a 2-yard catch could turn into 8-9 pretty easily. He turns, makes one move, and falls forward, and he has 9 yards. But for whatever reason, Isaac Rex has not been highlighted this year in the offense.
Well, and those little 2-yard catches almost substitute the run game in a way.
Absolutely.
Where it's like you're not trying to get 25 yards off of that, but it really makes the defense be honest as well. So it's hard to watch him not be featured because what he could do for this offense would change the entire offense, I feel like. But yeah, to your point, I wish he was featured more.
Last week, we talked about net field position being one of the key indicators to success in college football, where your opponent is averaging starting their drives versus where you are. BYU is negative 22 this week. It's been one of our strengths. I believe you said last week we're 29th in the nation, and this week we were minus 22 to a Texas team. The punting game, like we talked about, was not on point. Rico did not have a great day. He shanked a couple of punts. Obviously, they had the punt return for a touchdown. One of the things I'd like to see out of the punt team, right now we have our snapper and we have our punter. I think the snapper's done a good job of covering the field. He's got some tackles as well. But Rico, obviously, his main skill set is not tackling. And then our shield is 3 defensive linemen right now, 3 guys that are over 300 pounds, right? And that makes sense to stop the punt blockers. But when they have to fan out and go out and try to tackle a 5-star athlete, a punt returner that's very shifty, that makes it very difficult. So if you look at the numbers, then we have 3 shield guys, we have a snapper, and we have a punter. There's 5 guys that aren't great at tackling in open space. That leaves us only 6, right? Yeah. And so I would love to see, maybe put 1 D lineman in there, 1 big guy, and then have a couple linebackers. Not, we're not putting small bodies in the shield, but maybe a couple guys that are a little bit better at tackling in open space and could help BYU's average field position. And one other thing I noticed in the game is Keelan Marion brought a lot of kicks out of the end zone, right? You take a knee and you automatically get the ball to the 25-yard line. We brought a lot of kicks out, and a lot of the times we're not getting close to the 25-yard line.
It felt like all of them weren't even close. And back to your shield comment, this is a chance for Max Tooley to start hitting some guys if he's willing to. I think that would be great for him. We will be back on this feed in 2 days, I believe, on Thursday with a preview of the BYU West Virginia game, which I feel like might be the game of the year. It's for us, at least. It's kind of turning into our Super Bowl. We haven't even touched on the fact that we need to win one more game this year.
We got to win one more game to get bowl eligible.
It's kind of something in the back of all of our minds right now. Anything else you want to touch on before we jump off?
I'll just give a quick recap of where BYU's projected for bowls.
Please.
We've been talking about this each week. Brett McMurphy has BYU in the Shreveport Bowl. He's got us back in Louisiana against Wazoo, which I think would be a fun opponent.
I love Shreveport.
Quality team. Wyoming in the Armed Forces Bowl. We play Wyoming out of conference next year, so that could be a little fun. Independence Bowl. BYU fans will not be excited about that, but they have us slated to play the UCLA Bruins, so it could be fun there.
Yeah, and that would be fun. UCLA is good. That wraps it up for today's pod. We will be back on this feed on Thursday morning with a review and a preview of the BYU game this weekend against West Virginia. This has been the STLK in the UTA Cougars podcast. That's it.